Welcome back, guys and girls, to the Barry Charles Footy Show. Yes, we're here again to talk about the greatest teams of all time. What is the greatest club team your side has ever produced? And then we compare them to another club and try and knock it down to see who is the best club team ever in the NRL Premiership. Remember to comment down below, smash the like button, and subscribe to the channel if you love the footy. And we're going to talk about two powerhouse teams, no doubt about this. And this was another tough one to decipher who was going to get through. The Melbourne Storm versus the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. That's what we're going to do here, right now. Compare the best teams between these two ever. Okay, so the Melbourne Storm versus the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Fullback, well, there was a bit of a hard one for the Bulldogs who to go for. I've gone for Luke Penn because of just how consistent he was over a long period of time. But this one, hands down, Billy Slater. Probably, arguably, one of the top 10 players ever to play the game. Billy Slater absolutely changed the way footy was played in the fullback position. Eventually, with his offloading and all that, and copycat King James Tedesco pretty much went down a similar path. And to be fair, it's not far off how good Billy Slater was, but Billy Slater's just a little bit more better. So, Billy Slater wins that one hands down. This was a controversial one, this one. I mean, Chris Anderson, he was a very great player. He was a very good player, but Israel Folau's talent was just so good. When he played, he was absolutely a freak of nature. And even though he didn't play too long at the Melbourne Storm, to me, he clearly just, on just pure talent, he just had to be there. The centres, pretty evenly matched this one, but I had to go for Greg Inglis. I just had to. He was a gun, and obviously another one, top 10 players in the game, no doubt about it. So the Melbourne Storm got some very talented players here. And on the other side, I had to give points to Josh Morris. He's obviously a gun as well. And Willie Tonga was the other one for the Bulldogs, and Matt King was the other one for the Storm. So pretty evenly matched there. The other wing, Marcus Bai versus Hazem Almasri. Well, Marcus Bai, of heaps of regular players like Marcus Bai coming through the game. So really, I had to go for Hazem Almasri just because his goal kicking, how many times he got Bulldogs out of the fire to win games. I just had to go for Hazem there. The halves pairing, this is a good matchup here. Cameron Munster and Cooper Cronk versus Terry Lamb and Steve Mortimer. You're not going to get much better than that. But jeez, Cameron Munster's got some more time to go, but Terry Lamb's just a legend of the game. Absolute legend, the way he played the game. He's a very good player, Terry Lamb. And to me, Cooper Cronk. It's going to be the biggest debate. I'm going to talk about it later, but when I get to the best team of all time. But Cooper Cronk, to me, is up there with the best halfbacks ever to play the game. Now, he wasn't the most talented, no doubt about it. He wasn't the most talented, but he worked harder than any of the other great number 7s to get where he did, to deliver premierships at the Melbourne Storm and the Roosters. Not many people do that, especially in this modern era. But there's one player who's going to try and alleviate that, which we'll talk about later. But to me, Cooper Cronk is in the conversation as the best halfbacks to ever play the game. And everyone's going to say Andrew Johns. Well, not everyone, but Andrew Johns. Absolute talent-wise, no doubt about it. But if you look at the record of Cooper Cronk, absolutely outstanding. And then we look at the forward packs of these teams here. This is where I think Melbourne Storm won this. Eddie Burns, very good player, don't get me wrong, very good player back in the long time ago. So not most of you out there won't even know him, but he was a gun player. But obviously because I didn't really see him, I had to go for Glenn Lazarus. He was very good when he played for both Broncos and the Melbourne Storm, but I put him in this team. for what well it was tough going. He could have been in the Broncos team too, but they're star studded, so I'll put him in this one. So Glenn Lazarus won that. And on the other side, obviously Jesse Bromwich is the other prop for the Melbourne Storm, but I thought Steve Price overplayed him, and I put Steve Price in as the better player of those two. Hooking role, Corey Hughes, obviously for the Bulldogs, but he's not going to take probably the best player to ever play the game. Maybe not the most talented as well, but in terms of the most consistent, Cameron Smith, hands down, hooker, going. He is just a gun. This is where it was contention here in the second row. Lock, I really had to it was so hard to decipher who was the better players. You got Felice Kafusi, Ryan Hoffman, Tawia Nikau versus David Gillespie, Steve Folkes, and Andrew Ryan. It was very hard to decipher where to go with this squad here, but I David Gillespie, he was so good at both codes. I just had to put him in there. Steve Folkes was very, very good, but Ryan Hoffman was so consistent in a few clubs, so I just put Ryan Hoffman there. And Tawia Nikau and Andrew Ryan are fairly similar, but I did go for Andrew Ryan. So I give Bulldogs in that part of the forward pack the thumbs up. If we look at the bench, this is where it got a little bit tricky because I put Josh Addo-Carr on the bench because he's just been so good for Melbourne. I just had to put him in. Some people argue he should be in the starting lineup, or maybe not in the team at all, but Josh Addo-Carr is just a good player and I just had to put him in. But I've given the points to Ben Barber because he won a premiership. I mean, so did Addo-Carr, but Ben Barber won it at the right time. So I think, yeah, for me, Ben Barber. Then obviously the rest of the forward, the bench, not obviously, but the bench I went for was Robbie Kearns, Dallas Johnson, and Scott Hill. And on the other side of them, we've got Dean Pay, James Graham, and Willie Mason. So it's very good. Both of them are very, 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 very good. Dean Pay, Robbie Kearns, they're both as good as each other, very similar. You could give the points to both, to be honest. That one was a bit of a tough one. Same with Dallas Johnson, James Graham. James Graham, very good player, but I just thought what Dallas Johnson did for Queensland, he had to get the points there. And Scott Hill was a very good player, but I've given it to Willie Mason. So, drum roll, please. The winner of this competition, and winning it was a tight battle. But just sneaking over the line, the Melbourne Storm beat the Bulldogs team. Where would they beat them? Well, to be honest, Cooper Cronk, Cameron Smith, Billy Slater, Greg Inglis. Need I say more? That's where they... If you compare who they would play against, Luke Patton, Terry Lamb, Steve Mortimer, Corey Hughes, and Josh Morris, it just doesn't have the same ring. So the Melbourne Storm win this one. So who was unlucky not to make the best Melbourne team of all time? Robbie Ross, but obviously Billy Slater just had that nailed down. Matt Guire, he was definitely in the consideration to be the starting winger as well, and maybe deserves to be there. He's probably the most unluckiest one. Tohu Harris, he's been very good. Kevin Proctor, Will Chambers could have been there. Matt Orford's a little, not really unlucky, but still up. And Stephen Cooney, David Kidwell, they're all chances. Steve Bell, he was probably unlucky too. He maybe deserved to get in front of Matt King. It was a tough battle there. Adam Blair as well. Some very good players that missed out. And on the other side of the Canterbury Bulldogs, Sonny Bill, I left them out because I had to pick him in the Roosters side, just on what he did for the Roosters, so I left him out of the squad, so that's why he's not there. Daryl Halligan could have easily been in there for Hazem Al-Masri, but that's just personal preference. Les John could have easily been the fullback, but I didn't really see much of his play, so that's why he's not in my squad. Chris Mortimer, Michael Potter, and there's heaps of other gun players who played for the Bulldogs, but to me the Melbourne Storm were the better team out of these two. So for me, Melbourne still go through to the top 8 teams in the NRL of all time. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video here at Barry Charles Footy Show. Remember to smash the like button and kick out the subscribe button so it gets kicked out all the way over to Lebanon so we get all the viewership over there. Take care out there. Until next.